Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today on our live demo session. Document your entire M365 configuration inventory in SysKit Point. My name is Patrick, and I'm sales manager here at SysKit. Today we will be joined by SysKit engineering team lead, Harvoje, who will be showing us the latest addition to SysKit Point. Many of you already know us as a company, but for those who don't, let me briefly introduce you to SysKit. SysKit is a software development company founded more than 13 years ago. We create innovative software solutions for M365 and SharePoint, and we currently have more than 3,000 customers around the world. Before we start, just a few housekeeping items. All registrants will receive a recording of the demo session. We will have a Q&A session after Harvoje's presentation, so please use the Q&A function to ask any questions and don't be shy. For those that are new to SysKit Point, this is a management and governance platform for Microsoft 365 that helps companies get better control over user access, centralized inventory, and management across multiple Microsoft 365 workloads, and helps enforce governance policies from the resource creation to its end of life. SysKit Point has many features, including SharePoint, Group, Teams, OneDrive inventory and management, user membership and permission management, and a wide variety of detailed reports that can be scheduled and automated directly to your email. We also have several modules, including governance automation, provisioning, advanced analytics and adoption, and our newest module, configuration inventory. Today, Harvoje will be focusing on configuration inventory. This was a separate product that has now been integrated as an additional module in SysKit Point. Configuration inventory allows admins to easily collect and navigate through all the Microsoft 365 configuration settings and generate complete documentation in a couple of clicks. Admins can automatically compare the latest configuration version with the desired state and get alerted if there are any differences. This helps companies comply with regulations such as HIPAA and GDPR and get ready for external controlling and auditing. For our SysKit Point customers who would like to try the configuration inventory module, please reach out to your customer success manager for more information. Harvoje will also mention metadata for provisioning templates and reporting that allows admins to define any metadata they want, create different governance policies, and enforce those through provisioning templates. Now, without no further delay, we will turn things over to Harvoje so he can show the latest improvements with SysKit Point. Harvoje, are you ready?
Hi, Patrick, I am. So let me just start by sharing my screen. And I think it's good. So let me just do this. So yeah, thank you, Patrick, for the nice introduction. My name is Harvoje. I'm an engineering team lead here at SysKit, and today I'm gonna give you a quick tour of our two newest features: configuration inventory as a separate module, and then metadata and how we improved on that feature that we had in past. Also, I'm gonna go over a couple of other things that I find important to note in the future that we built for this release, and then I'm just gonna go over our updated roadmap just so you know better what we are gonna have soon. So let's start with the configuration inventory. So this is something that has been a fun ride. So this is a module that's built on top of a SysKit Point. So this is something that you can get installed on top of the SysKit Point. So SysKit Point now is becoming more of a platform, as Patrick mentioned, and you're going to be able to add additional modules on top of it. So the first module is configuration inventory that I'm going to be talking about today, and it's completely opt-in. So if you don't need these capabilities, you can use SysKit Point without it. What I found interesting about this module is that it's built on top of the large foundation that we left with the SP docket. And then we also used SysKit Trace as a I would say stepping stone towards this full integration into our SysKit Point platform. So it's basically tailored for the IT and system administrators. So since we are collecting tenant level settings, it's important to people that are managing that. So this feature is not available for our collaborators. So because we found out you don't need collaborators to have access to this kind of data. So yeah. So what we are actually collecting when we come to configuration inventory. So as an IT admin, you in the Microsoft 365 world, you spend a lot of time in the Microsoft 365 admin center. So admin.microsoft.com is a bookmark of mine. And then you go to other different admin centers there. So currently we are supporting a lot of data there. So like Azure Active Directory, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, Exchange Online, Intune, and security and compliance. So these all are different admin centers that there's a lot of data there that you need to configure. With SysKit Point and configuration inventory module, you'll be able to collect all this data in the one place and then see what you have set up and what you can do about it. So if we go around what and how configuration inventory works, I would like to separate it to three distinct phases, I would say. So the first thing is a collection of data. So yeah, SysKit Point and configuration inventory module goes into these different admin centers, and then it collects all this data that is found there. And it's pretty easy to use because only thing that you need to do is install SysKit Point, and everything is set up on our end. And you can automate this process, so it takes place, let's say once a week is a good recommendation, because you'll get the up-to-date state of your environment. And that's something that in the tool where I'm going to show you later, we call it a snapshot. So it's a snapshot of your configuration inventory. So I briefly mentioned what kind of workloads we are supporting currently, and then we are also going to expand that support in following releases, because this gives us, I would say, a baseline so we can add additional workspaces and additional reports into it. So once you collect that data, then you can do something with it, of course. And this is where our documentation foundations and documentation experience with SP-Docket and SysKit Trace really comes in, because we know and we will deliver you a report that you can then use for your external or internal certification or auditing purposes. So this is a really nice way for you to just give your auditors, like, here is my documentation or my whole environment, go over it and see if something is off. And then with a nice feature of SysKit Point, where you can assign a global reader to your environment, you can give access to these auditors to SysKit Point, and then they can access configuration inventory. And in such a way, they can also see the live data, and they can maybe modify the reports in a way that they need it. So it's a good way to keep track of it. Also, what is important is in IT teams where there's more than 3 or 4 or 5 IT administrators, it's important that everybody knows what's happening, and these kind of reports are something that can help you with that. So you have I would say, a hub where you upload these kind of documents, and then everybody is aware of what's going on, and you can just cross-check it. And once we collect data, and once you export this data or generate reports, or just see it, explore it, then we come to the most important part, I would say, is a comparison. So the first thing that always comes to mind is your user is calling you and telling you something has stopped working. And this is where the comparison feature can help you troubleshoot and detect problems really easy. So as I said before, we are using this snapshot concept, and that's a pretty powerful in a way that somebody calls and tells, hey, this was working a month ago last time I tried, and it's not working now. And then you can easily, with a couple of clicks of mouse, you're going to see later on, just select that closest point in time that it worked, and then you can compare it with today and find differences there. And then you can try to solve it in such a way. The other thing that you do, if you have that large sample of snapshots, you can also give to your auditors, because they usually ask what changed between the last time we were here and now, and you can just give them a report that's saying them, like, this is what we changed in the past 12 months, in the past 24 months, or whatever your auditing period is. This allows you some kind of, I would say, proactive monitoring, because you get a, I would say, and in a way you can set up alerting that you get the reports each week, like this is what changed last week. And if we are talking about a team of let's say five IT administrators, it can also be a nice way to keep them up to touch what's going on inside your environment. So in such a way you can set up alerting. As I go over a product demo later on, I'm going to show you how you can set it up, and you're going to see it's really easy. So, and just to wrap these things up, and just once more point out what are strong suits of configuration inventory, I would say ease of use is really important, and I find it really nice. So you don't have to develop your custom PowerShell script, because basically this is the only way that you're gonna be able to pull this data from the Microsoft 365. And as we know, PowerShell scripts and especially connecting to M365 services can sometimes pose quite a challenge. And it's really nice when you don't have to worry about it. And there, Microsoft is well doing an agile development of M365, and it can change rapidly. And it's always good to have somebody that is watching this and giving you update that everything is working correctly. And then last but not least, you can count on configuration inventory to have enterprise level reporting and export, because we have a lot of experience and a lot of foundations that we built this configuration inventory module on, and then you can be sure that it's gonna be working. So yeah, so these are the I would say three major things why would you like to look at configuration inventory. So, and now it's time for demo. So if I just jump into it, and here you can see my point. I always like to start my demos on the home page, just to give people idea of how to get where. So on the home page, now we have a new tile called configuration inventory, and I'm going to click on it. So when I click on it, it's going to select me a snapshot, and on the left-hand side, I get all the different workloads and reports that I get there. And on the right-hand side, I get a couple of actions that I'm going to get into later. So in this part of presentation, I would like just to briefly go over everything we have here, and just to give you glances of what we collect currently. If you would like to have an updated list of this thing in our documentation on our website, we keep updated list of what we are collecting, what those reports mean, and what those properties inside of the reports mean. But let's jump into it. So the first thing to note here is that we are collecting this configuration part of data. So we're not going to go deeply into content. We're going to stick to the admin center. So the first thing that I might like to show you, and this is something that can scale, is Azure AD applications. So this is something that you install when you install a new tool. They usually install some kind of Azure AD applications, and here you can get an idea of what's here and what is going on. And when I'm going to go over these different reports, always keep in mind that you can compare these things in two different points in time, and you get a really powerful capability there to see what changed, if something has stopped working, and maybe you find out that the application has been deleted. And the other thing that I want you to keep track is that we are going to see a lot of different policies. So here, for example, we have a group lifecycle policies that have been set up on this environment, and group naming policies. And that's going to be a leitmotif for the rest of these things that I'm going to show you later on, policies and configuration settings that you're going to have. So here is also where you're going to find conditional access policies and name locations. Unfortunately, in this environment, I don't have them set up, but this is somewhere where you can check out on the different conditional access policies. And these are also important when you are checking with troubleshooting. I cannot log in from this location. I cannot use this application. The Exchange Online part, and this is, I would say, our biggest foray into Exchange Online. Here we have a lot of different reports, as you can see here, where you can see how your Exchange Online is set up. I'm also going to go into anti-spam settings, because these usually can be really important, because you suddenly stopped receiving mails from your vendor, and then you find out they ended up on the spam list. And then here is where you're going to see that setting. If somebody says, hey, I'm not receiving mails from my vendor. And there is a lot of different options and configurations here on the left-hand side, as you can see, which you can explore and then compare over time to see if something happened. Next one that I want to just briefly touch upon are Intune settings. As you can see here, we have Android and iOS settings. Windows is going to come later this year, hopefully, to complete the whole picture of Intune. Then we have security and compliance, and security and compliance. Admin Center is really important, and I usually focus on the different labels that you have, so retention labels and sensitivity labels. And when we come to sensitivity labels, it's also a nice way to just get a whole picture of your M365 environment. So SysKit Point by default is going to show you what sensitivity labels can be applied to what site. And here you can see a list of all the sensitivity labels that you have inside of your environment. So as you can see, SysKit Point and configuration inventory model are really good working together because you get a better view of your environment. So then we go to SharePoint, and in the SharePoint settings, I would say sharing settings is the most important one that you're going to look at it. I would say most often is this is a tenant level setting. So this is something that your sites can override or cannot override depending on how you set it up. And this is something that is also important to see. And then in Teams, you're also going to see a lot of different policies. And if you just glance on them, you're going to see that there are actually a lot of these in Admin Center, Teams Admin Center on the left-hand side. A lot of these policies is that data that you can find there. As you can see, I'm on one screen in one application, and I get all these different data. If you try to pull all this data out by yourself, usually we are talking about a lot of different clicks, and then just taking a snapshot of your screen and copy pasting it somewhere, you get a nice looking reports like this. So if I go here to my sharing, and if I try to export it, I have it prepared here just so you can see how it looks. You get a nice looking report that is telling you how the sharing is looking like. So you can export one report and then send it if you need it. Yeah, don't save. But you can also export the whole snapshot. So I'm going to just export the snapshot here. It takes a couple of seconds, I guess. And then we're gonna see all the data here. I'm just gonna enable editing because it's gonna make me easier, and then just jump down into my sharing example. And if I go here to sharing, I get the same result, but I also get everything else. So I get a real nice and useful looking Excel report that you can send to your manager, to your auditors, or just store it somewhere and be sure that it's there. So this is kind of what you do with the data. So this is data that we do have. Now let's go and see what this snapshot can also offer you. So we have a take snapshot where you can take snapshot of environment, but we're not going to do that now. It takes some time, not a lot, but 20 to 30 minutes is something that you can expect. So we see this here option mark snapshot as good. So as we know in the Microsoft 365 world, every organization and every deployment is different. So we cannot, or we are not providing at this moment some kind of baseline. But what we recommend our users to use after they are satisfied with how their M365 is set up, they can mark snapshot as good, and then in future always compare to that snapshot. So in my example, I know I have a good snapshot here. I can see it by unmarked snapshot as good. I know that this is a good configuration, and I like to have all my comparison and all my troubleshooting to be on this snapshot here. So let's see how it looks. So if I go here to compare, I'm going to compare this from yesterday and then the good snapshot. Both are manual, and I get this nice looking interface, but there's a lot of clutter here. I'm just going to exclude everything that is the same. And then I'm going to go into calling policies. And if I see here in calling policies, these have been disabled in this new version, and maybe I would like them to fall back. As you can see there, we're gonna show you all the differences here in the configuration inventory. So this is a great way for you to get a glimpse of what changed, and then you can export this screen and then send it over to, for example, IT admin responsible for Teams. So this is basically what you can do. There's also here a couple of settings that's going to give me a chance to talk about the different configuration capabilities that you do have here. So the first thing is, if I go here to settings, go to configuration inventory, I have this automatic snapshot enabled, and this is something that is going to enable the automation on the configuration inventory part of the module. So the first thing is snapshot frequency, how often the SysKit Point will take a snapshot for you. I usually recommend weekly is just fine enough. So every week, Sunday, Monday are both good days for you to just take a complete snapshot of your environment, and then you can use that to compare and send reports and stuff like that. So here in the email reporting, that is also connected to these compare settings, you can set up alerting. So please notify me only when some changes happen between this version and the last good configuration, and send this to my admin. And in this way, you can set up alerting. We also support this, and this is also a really nice, is that you get a report every Monday, every Sunday. Hey, these are your new configuration, and these are the differences between the last time. Or if there are no differences, we're just going to send you a whole documentation so you can keep track of what's going on. So this is a way that you can enable this proactive monitoring in such a way that you can do that. So yeah, so this is basically what you can do with configuration inventory. So if you do have any questions, as Patrick said at the beginning of webinar, please use the Q&A function here, and I'm going to answer it at a later stage. So let me just jump back into my presentation, so we can tackle second of the biggest features that release this release. So SysKit Point metadata. So metadata, as we know, is additional information about data. And we had that in our solution for some time now. So you could define primary, secondary, and department for every newly created workload. But now we are supporting it completely. So I'm going to go into demo later on, but you'll be able to see that you can define your own metadata, and then you can use that during provisioning part. So using our provisioning module, or you can have integrated, or you also have it integrated in reporting, and then you're going to be able to change it using our solution. So this gives you a great capability to just enrich your sites with additional data. And some of the use cases that you're going to use it are in the old time of SharePoint, you had one primary admin that was responsible for that site. In this new day, if you create a team, by default, all the owners are responsible for that team. And that's good if, you know, somebody is on vacation, somebody is somewhere and cannot manage it, then it's good to have multiple people. But in the regular hours, it's usually a good idea to have one person responsible that you can ping. And then, since you cannot do it this way, you can use this metadata to just pinpoint who the primary contact for some of the workloads are. So in that way, you get this capability back. Also, the second thing that we also like to use here at SysKit is to have idea of what department own what teams. So for example, marketing is always a good example here, because they're communicating with a lot of vendors, and then it's good to have a report, hey, these are the vendors that marketing is communicating with, they're using these teams, and if they just put metadata communicating with vendor marketing, we know that they have different policies that they need to adhere. So in that way, you get a lot of capability with that. So going a bit technical and explaining why this technical part is important is that we are actually supporting all the existing SharePoint metadata. So in the background, and I'm going to go over that also in my demo, we are using SharePoint site property bags. And this is important because this is basically a standard at this point. If you want to enrich your SharePoint sites with additional data, you're using those property bags because you can. And then a lot of people and a lot of organizations today are already using those property bags, and then you can connect our SysKit Point metadata with that existing metadata, and you get the full experience from SysKit Point. So you don't need to adopt metadata together with SysKit Point, you can just use the existing metadata connected with SysKit Point, and after one sync, we're going to show everything to you. So in such a way, we also support integration with other tools that use the same principles. So if you have some kind of process or tool that is writing and reading data from property bag, you can use SysKit Point as a plug-in solution there as well. So I'm really excited about it, and I love it the way that we build it. Other thing that I want to mention here in SysKit Point metadata, we find that this feature is really important for us going forward, and we see that we are gonna add additional support, and that's gonna enable us to do some more of these complicated use cases to solve. So, so this feature, I think I'm going to explain it much better if I jump back into SysKit Point. As I mentioned before, the first thing, I'm not going to save this. I'm going to jump into my home screen, and I'm going to jump back into settings because. So the first thing that we need to talk a bit about is how do you create this custom metadata. So under governance part, so this is part of our governance set of features. You can create custom metadata. As you can see in my environment, I already have a lot of them prepared, but we're going to create another. So projects are sometimes complicated, and you would like to have a set an end date, and then we're going to create project end date. And then, yeah, and yeah, this is basically what you need. But here in SysKit Point custom metadata, you can select different kind of metadata for you to use. So text is always catch them all, so you can input everything, and it's gonna work with everything. But there's also sometimes when you want it to be formatted in a better way. So for example, people is pretty self-explanatory. You can use people picker to choose what kind of metadata you want to input into field, and in such a way, and I'm going to show it later on when we do the reporting part, you're going to see that allows us to give you a better representation of what is shown. We also have date. We also have a drop down, which is a good thing where you can just give people opportunity to choose from some of the choices you made here. And then you can also have yes, no, and number. So these are all basically. So if you need anything, I would say more advanced, text is maybe your best option, or just give us a feedback and we're going to try to see if that goes something that we're going to build in future. But I believe with these, you can do most of the things that you need. So, and then going back to what I was telling you before, the property bag key and the way that you can connect your existing metadata is using this property bag here. So if you have something on your tenant, on your environment, you can just input a property bag here, and if you confirm and save, in the next sync process that the SysKit Point is going to do, it's going to pull that data and show it inside of our environment. So it's pretty powerful. The thing to note here that we also have 3 built-in properties: primary contact, secondary contact, as you find those are pretty important, and department. Department is currently the most, I would say, special, because it actually goes to Azure property and pulls all the departments out of there and give you a drop-down choice. So it can connect to Azure and just give you options. So if you need any similar to that, also feel free to contact your customer success manager, and they will try to push that so we can implement it in future. So what I wanted to show you before jumping into reporting is to tell you and show you how it looks inside of the provisioning templates. So our provisioning templates have become pretty powerful at this point. So there's a lot of steps here. I'm just going to jump over them because you can do a lot of cool stuff here. But here I'm just going to focus on custom metadata. So anything that we defined in the previous step, we can use here in custom metadata, or we can add another field from here as well, or create a new custom field, sorry. Add another field means add another existing metadata. And here we have those 3 of the most popular. But if we go here, we have an option for end users to fill out this, or you can, as an admin, just bake into this template the primary content. So in such a way, you have, I would say, freedom to choose who's gonna fill out. So for example, if you have a marketing team template, of course, you're just gonna use a department and you're gonna put, you're not gonna let your end user decide, and you're gonna use marketing here. So in such a way, you can make sure that when the resource is created, it has all the information that you actually need. So this is a way that you can use it during the provisioning. So if we go back to our Teams application that we use during the provisioning, we're going to ask your end users there to provide the metadata if needed. But yeah, now we're going to jump into the reporting part and see what we can do here. So here in my sites overview, I'm going to show you one of features that I think constantly goes underappreciated here at SysKit Point is the column chooser. So in column chooser, you can choose a lot of different options. So I'm going to remove a couple of those because it's going to be easier for us to see how we show this metadata. But since metadata is basically a custom field built on top of the site, we're going to show it here as a column. So I'm going to use my certification required, project end date, and then project manager to just show you what we can do here. As you can see, these are set up for some of my sites. It's not set up for some of my other sites because that's okay. Sometimes you don't need it. And if you choose the correct format of your metadata, you get a nice filtering options here. So for example, in my date, it can tell me June 30th or something like that. And if I'm using my people picker, I can choose a person that's been here, and I can also click on it and drill down into user details for this user. And then I also have here certification, and I'm just gonna use this example as yes. And then if I click here on it, on both of these sites, I can do some of the reporting here. I can jump into permission metrics, internally share content, and see what's going on there. But what I also want to show you here is there's a change metadata where you can change all the metadata that has been applied to this site. So this is a pretty nice way of doing things because either you're using some kind of PowerShell when you're modifying those property bags, or here you can use the nice interface that is there. So for example, for project manager, as we told, it's a people picker. We can just choose somebody else here, and then mode administrator, very popular in demo environments. But I can choose there, and in the project category, we can also see what is there. So in such a way, you can change metadata on fly during the life cycle of your resource, because these things sometimes change. If nothing else, the project end date is going to change. I can promise you that. So it's a good way for you to have an option to change. So this is in the reporting part. And then also what is also great is you can do the same thing during the generation of your reports. So if I go here to my externally shared content, I can do the same thing here. Column chooser is everywhere when you see sites or something like this filtering, usually have a column chooser there. And then what I'm most interested here is in my certification required. So I'm going to use here, and I'm going to use yes, and then I can just select them and run reports on this filtering. And this is going to give me a nice looking report that I can export and send it over whoever needs to see it. So this is just the beginning of metadata story for us, but already, as you can see, there is a lot of these use cases that you can cover with just reporting, filtering, provisioning, and then changing during the life cycle using the SysKit Point. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, there's a QA capability here. So if I go back into my presentation, I'm just going to go over a couple of things that I found really important that we added. So service accounts now can be added to ignore list under settings, and this is really important. For example, if you are looking at unused content or similar report like that, you can these you can be polluted by service accounts on the M365 side of things, just doing something, or also you may have some kind of third-party tool like SysKit Point that is accessing these files and just generating some some audit logs, and then you can just select those service accounts, add them to ignore list, and everything is going to behave like you would. Also, privacy identity management PIM is now working completely, and we're really proud of that. And people can now use PIM together with SysKit Point, and it's going to give them a nice experience. Then we have various performance and bug fixes, and if you go to our release notes for these past couple of versions, you're going to see that we fixed a lot of things. We are listening to our customer base and trying to fix and add whatever we find. So I would like to end this today webinar with something that is coming to SysKit Point, and just to give you a small glimpse into what's coming. So we are very excited to announce that we are all slowly entering the Power Platform. We are trying to build some functionality around there, and we started with Power BI because I think that's most used and something that is a really nice stepping stone into Power Platform. So you can expect in the coming months to see Power BI inventory and permission reports inside of SysKit Point. So we have a lot of experience with the inventory permission reports going back all the way to SPDocket, and then SysKit Point is doing that for all the SharePoint things on the M365 platform, and now we're doing the same for Power BI. So you're going to be able to see what kind of reports do you have, what kind of data sources, who has permission to what, and then we're also going to integrate that nicely with the licensing reports, so you get a better idea of are your Power BI license reports used, because they can rack up the costs quite fast. Other thing that we are quite proud of are improved support for private channels. So really soon you're going to have capability to manage your private channels through SysKit Point, and then we're going to introduce the access reviews for private channels, and hopefully that's going to be another webinar where we're going to show this great functionality. And then last but not least, that's coming real soon, is support for shared channels inside of Microsoft Teams. So this has been a buzzword for a month now since they announced it, and in the coming, I would say, weeks and months, we're going to slowly add gradually support for shared channels. We're going to start with just listing them and giving you an idea of who people are and who are the organizations that have access to shared channels. And then later on, we're going to introduce it, shared channels, to all our great features in governance suite. So this is something that's been confirmed, but as always, we're a company that likes to listen to our customer base, potential and current. So if you have any requests, you can also contact your CSMs, customer support managers. And then if you also have feedback, we'd like to hear it and then try to improve it. So with that, I would like to thank you for your time, and I'm going to give it over to Patrick to see if we have any questions at this point.
Thank you, Hervé, for the excellent presentation. So yeah, just to again remind everyone, now will be the time for the Q&A session. So please feel free to ask any questions, and we should then basically address them as best as we can. So maybe just to give Hervé a breather, I can maybe reply the first question. So the first question came from Paulo. So he was asking if this same features for the configuration inventory is available for the on-premise SharePoint, and actually, as notably, yes, we have another tool called SPDocket. It's a very well-known solution for the on-premise environment, and it does also help you document all your farm configuration and so forth. So definitely, if you want to learn more about that, just please reach out to us, to your customer success manager, or to sales@syskit.com, and we will help you with further information. Now there are some additional questions that I will try to group them so we can best address them. It's first related to, as you all noticed, this was a standalone solution. Now it integrated within SysKit Point. So they were asking about if SysKit Trace, now how the previous tool was called, is now all integrated with SysKit Point. And what would be maybe the improvements and changes that, for example, we can expect with this integration with SysKit Point? So if Harvey, you could maybe give us some information on that.
Yeah. So yeah, so the basic premise here is that we really removed the part of SysKit trace that goes inside your content. So sites, teams, teams users, and team channels. These kind of reports are no longer part of the configuration inventory. But what we are going to experience in future, and we have already done that with Intune, we can easily, more easily add additional reports. So we added, I believe, iOS or Android, one of two. One or either two of those we added in this version, and this is going to allow us an easier way to add additional reports here. And then what we also improved in this version is that we are basically removed the need for the app password that we had on the on-premise part. So the it was hard to improve on the SysKit trace, but now in SysKit Point, since we have this cloud environment, we managed to move most of those things to app permissions. So in such a way, don't need to leave the password, which I find it should be a standard going forward with this. So but biggest reason we've done this is it's going to be easier for us to deliver new features and to deliver new reports with this new approach.
Okay, good. Thank you, Harvey. So yeah, addressing Jake's and Tristan question with that. So thank you very much for the question. Now, Kyle also asked us a question, so thank you for asking. So he appreciate that this the configuration inventory seems very handy, and he is asking, are there ways for us to add additional properties to monitor that SysKit configuration inventory isn't monitoring today? For example, ensuring remote PowerShell for EXO is disabled, or specific audit settings on the mailbox are enabled. What are our flexibilities then?
So currently not, but this is a part of where we'd like to hear a detailed feedback of what would you like to see there, because this is quite a new thing in SysKit Point, and we would like to improve it and to just make it up to your standards. So currently that's not a possibility, but this is a great opportunity for us to maybe talk about it and see what we can do there.
Yeah, as a customer-centric company, so please feel free to share with us any usage that you are aiming for our tools, and we will definitely take that into account. So any additional settings that you would like to cover with SysKit with the configuration inventory module. So next question is related to a common question previously for Trace, which is how SysKit, and maybe now connecting SysKit Point, how SysKit Point is accessing the data, and what kind of requirement will be for, let's say, global admin role, for the accounts to reach in many aspects of the Office 365. If you could maybe summarize somehow the new.
Yeah, I touched upon it in the previous answer. So basically, we are using application permissions wherever we can, and this, I would say, lowers the need for the global admin to be present there. You just give consent once, and then the upgrade and everything, you don't need to give additional consent. As always, we are pretty, I would say, open about it. You can find it in our documentation, so the permissions that we need, and then we also give reason why we need a particular Graph API permission. And then what is also great is that we have this, we are using Azure AD applications to just give us capability to have different modules. So if you don't like us, I don't know, accessing something, you can just delete the application that we're using it for that. So in such a way, yeah, so we are basically following the guidance there, Azure AD applications to access everything, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you, Jorge. And yeah, thanks once again. This was an additional question from Tristan. So please, I hope that we answered, but feel free to always reach out to your customer success manager so we can best help you further with more in-depth details on that. So next it's from Corey, a bit related now to the SysKit Point as a governance tool, and asking so if it works with security groups in addition to M365 groups, specifically periodic reviews and minimum owners.
So we support security groups completely throughout the application, but these access reviews, that's something that I don't know on the top of my head. We will get back to you with the response after the webinar when we check it. So yeah, we support security group, but the access reviews for that, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, we will confirm regarding the minimum of owners. This is something that our tool does provide for you to create this policy across your M365 groups and teams. So yeah, be sure to check out, and of course we can get in touch so we can discuss further. And that was a question regarding our licensing. For licensing questions, please reach out to sales@syskit.com, and we will be happy to help you how this works and address your specific use case, how you would like to use our solution, and with the proper licensing options. So furthermore, so Scott asked, and I do believe you showed, but just to go again, if there is a comparison report Excel output regarding the configuration inventory.
Yeah, of course. You can get a export. I believe we have some kind of example on our website. I totally went over it, but you get a nice looking Excel report. Basically what we did in SysKit Trace, you get the same thing here in SysKit Point as well. So something that you can take and give to your colleagues over the email or just store it somewhere.
Yeah. So please check SysKit, the resources. There are quite several examples of reports that you can get from our tools, and such as this one. So. All right. So next would be also related to from Scott. Is there a multi-tenant version basically with this solution? So
currently not. No multi-tenant support, but this is something that we are discussing in the between ourselves about it. So we'd like to hear your use case around that as well. And then because we had that in SysKit Trace, it was not something that was widely adopted. So we would like to hear what kind of use case would you like, and then to see how we can maybe re-implement that in the future.
Great. Thank you very much, Harvey, and thanks for the question. There is another question from Jake. So a bit more in the I believe in the provisioning. How is this provisioning Azure? Do they need to create a subscription, or is all done through Graph API?
So most of that is done through Graph API. So there is no need for additional AWS subscription. Once you deploy our solution, we are going to, as I mentioned a couple of times, use our permissions to just create everything under the context of our application and just apply policies and settings that you define in templates. So yeah, most of that is going through Graph API, and the things that are not are SharePoint sites, the classic experience, which we also support. If you'd like to do that, then we use different kind of technology, but basically it goes to the same. But yeah, no need for additional Azure subscriptions.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Harvey, and again, thanks for the question. Let's see if we have additional questions. So one common question is, I guess, regarding the documentation inventory module is, of course, we are tracking the changes over settings, but is it possible to tell who changed what setting?
So that not directly through the configuration inventory module interface, but we do have audit logs report where you can just pinpoint who changed what, because you can just, I think by default we follow most of the change requests there, and then you can just pinpoint the audit log entry to see who changed what. But yeah, you cannot see it in interface in that place, but in the audit log, you should be able to see who changed what.
Okay. All right, so great. I believe that's all for today. Of course, if there are any pending questions, we will definitely reach out to you later on. And if you have any additional questions after this session, don't hesitate to contact us directly and or to your customer success manager. So yeah, Harvey, any last words?
No, thank you for coming, and I hope everybody enjoys configuration inventory model. It's a great addition to SysKit Point, I think.
Thank you, Harvey. And once again, thank you all for joining us for today's demo session. And as I mentioned, everyone who registered for this session will receive a recording. If you have any further questions, just reach out to us. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye.